Welcome, guys, to another live episode. So today's episode is going to be interesting. We're going to be talking about something which I actually kind of find a little personal. So just think about it, right? If you've ever had some element, some epitome of success, just think about it, some areas, some aspect in your life, right? Let's say you won an award, let's say you won a trophy, or let's say you're the first in your family to achieve something. You start to notice that the more you progress, the more you make it in life, the more you tend to have fewer and fewer friends, right? And to me, it kind of baffled me because I was like, why is that the case? Why is it that people you mean no harm? There's nothing that you don't mean anything against them. You genuinely care about people, but people seem to misunderstand you. People seem to not get you. People seem to not understand anything about what this you're going for. Your vision, you seem like you're alone. You feel like it's lonely, you're losing friends, and it just seems like it's getting harder and harder. So you want to go ahead and stick around because in this video I'm going to cover a few things. We're going to cover the fact that 4 out of 10 people have zero friends. 4 out of 10 people have zero friends. Plus, also the fact that you gotta look at it is to success makes you actually lose friends. So you gotta decide: is success something you want to go for? Let's say you're a business owner, you're starting your business, or you want to start a business, right? You want to go ahead and see how you can succeed in life, but you're starting to notice that the more you attain some level or some element of success, the less people are around you. So do me a favor, hit the like button if it's your first time. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well, because we're going to be covering a few things here, and it's actually going to get a little personal. So the reason why I'm having this conversation was, so I've had a conversation with a friend's son, and he's we spoke a little bit. He's we were talking a little bit about basically chasing your goals, because he wanted to make a few life decisions that obviously he was like, maybe his parents might not agree with it, all that stuff, but he wanted to kind of make those decisions. So his decisions was basically more or less career decisions, right? So he had career decisions that he wanted to make. Now, for me, my perspective is I'm more of pro what will make you understand that life is, especially as a guy, life is not easy. Life is not, nothing is handed to you. You have to work for it. You have to earn it. I don't believe in the handout kind of scenario. I want people to understand, and this is the same way I raised my son, is I want people to understand the perspective as to, in life, it's pretty much survival of the fittest, right? That's pretty much how life is, right? Is you had um to be here right now, right? Because there are a lot of people that that was born in the same time as you, but it's you. You're the one that's watching this video at this point in time. So, which means in some way, shape, or form, you competed and you won, right? So, what we're going to talk about a little bit here is we're going to be. I want to share with you guys this article, and it's an article by Medium, and this article is basically talking about, why is it that from the beginning here, why we lose friends after becoming successful. We're going to talk about 8 reasons why we drift apart as people achieve success in life, right? Which is very interesting here as we dive into it, right? So the most important thing here was, one of the key things that it brought about was fortune breeds jealousy. Okay. Now you're going to think about it from a perspective. I mean, some of you in some way, shape, or form have experiences where I want you to, let's kind of slow down and let's take into play. Let's say this: you have two friends, right? Or you have a group of friends, right? You guys grew up together. You grew up together. You pretty much, for the most part, you did everything together. You guys are like brothers. You see each other on on a different plane. Now, here's what's interesting. Okay, here's what's interesting is when you decide to make a decision that is not a decision that aligns with a pack, you're seen in a way, in a different light, right? When you have this group of friends and you're like, you know what, I want to go ahead and pursue a different path, they look at you in a different way, because you kind of, you're breaking the norm, you're out of the norm. So that's not really necessarily you losing friends there. It's just them going, well, why is that? Why do you think you want to do this? What do you think you're better than us? Why do you think you want to do this? And you're like, no, I just genuinely think I want to do this, right? It's kind of the same thing where if you grew up in a lower income family, you're like, hey, you know what? I want to pursue this. I want to move on. They're like, who do you think you are? You think you're better than us? You think you're this? You think you're that? And you're like, I just think that there is more out there, and I want to go and pursue the more that's out there, right? But then they don't seem to understand you. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit interesting as we kind of go ahead and dive in a little bit deeper here. Is once you start to become successful, some element of success. Success is not you start making millions of dollars a year. It could be a position in which you make more money than everybody in the friend group is. You move into a better neighborhood. It could even be success, could even be if everybody's single, now you're in a relationship, and then they're like, that in some way, shape, or form could be a definition of success, right? There's a reason why they say single people keep each other single, right? If you have a lot of single friends and if you're the only one in a relationship and everyone is single, at some point they're going to lure you back in the ways and, boom, there goes a good relationship there, right? But it's in the sense as to when you have something that in a way, shape, or form, they say they don't want, your friend group say they don't want, but genuinely they actually do. Here's what ends up happening is they will first a few things that they're going to do first is we're going to cover those few signs. There's going to be signs in which we're going to do. I'm going to show you in which signs in which you're losing your friends, signs in which your friends are becoming toxic because every good friend eventually at some point becomes toxic. Even in my, I've had friends in which I thought that this was like a brother. This was someone who I thought was a good friend. And I remember there was this guy who wanted to promote the business. So it's like, yeah, man, absolutely. I'll promote your business. Absolutely. Give me the business cards and all that stuff. Right. So I was like, sure, that's fine. Now, a few months later, I'd seen him. We'd had a conversation. We're going to pretty much arrange how the promotion was going to work. And he had met up with a few friends of mine that he didn't know. They just randomly ran into them. Didn't know that they were, like I actually knew them. But he started talking about me, started talking all this trash about me, started saying all sorts of stuff that I was like, wow, that's he said everything. I wasn't there at the time. He told them everything. And then they called me up and they go, hey, man, you don't believe what your friend is saying. They're like, you don't believe what your boy's saying. And then boom, it's telling me about all this stuff. He said this. He's like, this bastard. He said this. And then I ran into him a little while later and he was like, "Oh yeah, man. Hey, what's going on, man? Let's get this started." And he was just this conniving, backstabbing, just slimy. And I was like, "Oh, sorry, man. Unfortunately, it's not gonna work. There's a few other things, and unfortunately, I just can't." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. Is everything okay?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, man. If you ever need my help, don't hesitate to ask." And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, no, no, no. I don't think I'll ever in any way, shape, or form need your help. I don't think I even want your help. This is what's going on in my head at the most part, right? But I start to look at this from this perspective. I start to look at this is something I experienced and all through my life. I remember this was a very, 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 very long time ago. There was this family. I was close friends with the husband. I was close friends with the wife. They didn't have any kids, but they pretty much were like kind of like my mentors at the time while I was in school. And the I spoke to the husband, I spoke to the wife, but for some reason, the wife for some reason seemed to had developed a sort of weird interest in talking to me. Right? I never saw anything. I never saw it as anything. I never saw it as you know anything weird because for me it was like I never really understood what was going on. Think about it in a sense as to a little bit of a naivety, right? And fast forward, she started, showing a little bit of like interest and stuff, and I was like, oh, unfortunately, I can't. I'm not doing it. Thank you. You know, all that stuff. So what she did was interesting. So this is probably 10, 11, maybe even 11, 12 years now. And the girlfriend I was dating, the girl I was dating at the time, she went and she was like, because I guess she saw this rejection, not knowing. I was like, hey, I just no, I'm not doing. You're trying to make advances. I'm not going to. This is not. It's not who I am. I'm not. I have no interest in that. And she went to told my girlfriend. She made up all sorts of stuff. She goes, "Oh, man, it was with this girl. This. She told my sister it was just character assassination upon character assassination. She was like, character assassinated me to my sister, character assassinated me to my girlfriend, and then everybody switched. And I never knew what was going on. I personally never knew like this person was genuinely in sabotaging just because I was like turning down her advances. Okay, which was very weird. That was my maybe my third or fourth lesson towards the fact is to be careful of who you keep around you because I was like I thought this family was a family that would mentor me. I didn't know that this was a family in which they had their own internal strife, and I'm like I don't want to be part of that, right? So another thing I'm kind of thinking about from that perspective is to your circle has to be a curated circle where that there are people that are like-minded like you. There are people that are basically they're grinding. There are people that are successful as you. Because the thing is, this is you never want to be the most successful person in your group. I'm going to say this again. You never want to be the most successful person in your group. I don't care what group it is. I don't care what friend group it is. I don't care what it is. You never want to be the most successful person in your group because if you are the most successful person in your group, what ends up happening is one, you have to pull everybody up. Two, you pretty much, for the most part, you leave yourself susceptible. You basically, when you're number one, everybody else is basically now claiming and aiming for your spot. And most people, especially if you have a lot of envious friends, will do everything impossible sometimes to yank you down. Not This is not for everybody, but there's a lot of people who don't know that they have envy inside of them, but they genuinely do have envy inside. They just don't know it. But they envious, but they just don't know it. It's a kind of a weird, it's a weird thing to kind of think about it. So as we dive a little deeper into this article, guys, as we dive a little deeper into this article, so is you gotta think about it. Fortune breeds jealousy. Okay. So, and then also you gotta feel there's also gonna be the feelings of guilt where the money guilt and success guilt are shockingly common feelings that can affect one's mental condition and relationship. Successful people look around and think maybe this hardworking buddy of mine would have deserved it more, or there's this element of like you feel like you don't deserve your success. Okay, so most people tend to kind of hide, like especially when you know the secret to success. A lot of times is not what the society has predestined, because you got to think about it is if society is predestined, hey, high school, college, you know 40 years, everybody else is doing that, but then everybody else is getting the same results and you don't want the same results that everybody else is getting. So which means that you have to follow a different path. Okay, you have to work smart. You have to understand that self-learning is a key and important factor. When you go through all this routes and then you become more successful, and then there are other people who they're smarter than you, and they're like, this person deserves it more, but in a way you kind of feel bad because you're like, they I can help them, but most people generally would not even listen, even if you gave them the secrets to whatever it is that you're looking for. So, and another thing is to when you become more successful, you gotta understand that successful people, you know, you hate excuses, right? I mean, there's one thing I don't like is I'm personally a person where I don't give excuses for anything, right? It's in a point in which if I can't do something, I can't do it, right? And if it's something like say I'm late, say I'm late somewhere, I'm late to being somewhere, it's not because, oh, traffic, or I was, there was a school bus or whatever it is. It's because of me, because if I had left 10-15 minutes earlier, I would not have been in that situation. Simple as that, right? So that's where the concept of people, successful people, hate excuses. But friend selection becomes more exact, and because the thing is, you got to understand is to the more successful you get, the more you have to realize this one thing is, the more successful you get, the more you have to realize that you don't know who that person is that you're bringing close to you is. You don't know what that one person you bring close to you is all about. You don't know if this person you're bringing close to you is in any way, shape, or form has your best interest, is trying to sabotage you. You don't know if people are. It's like the same thing is to athletes, for instance, right? They have casual relationships with people that they meet. They don't know. You don't know if that one person's like has an ulterior motive of like, oh, gonna get pregnant and all of a sudden try to get you on the hook or whatever it is. You don't know. It starts to become very, very dangerous for you to basically, make friends. It starts to become very, very dangerous for you to make friends. It starts to become very, very dangerous for you to what is the word I'm looking for? It starts to become, you just have to be a little bit more cautious, and you have to be more cute, because now it's like people that are around you, most of the times you don't know if these people are actually, people who are there for you, or people who are just there for the moment. There's a thing I have is, I have at 15 minutes, I categorize relationships in 15 minutes, 15 months, 15 years. Okay, so I was looking at it from a perspective as to, if I'm talking to somebody, is this a 15-minute relationship? Okay, which means this someone I'm going to know for 15 minutes? Is this a 15-month relationship? You can categorize it as well. You can say it's a 15-week relationship, so short term. Or am I looking at a 15-year relationship? The reason why I categorize all those things is to, it gives me priorities as far as if it's a 15-minute relationship, which is I'm just talking to you, it's a casual talk, then there's no point to me investing my time or anything. If then when I'm still looking at the 15 months, okay, then I have to invest my time. Do I have the time to actually become friends with this person? Is this person me and this person, do we have aligned values? These are kind of a few key things that you kind of actually just start to think about as you get busier, and you get busier for the most part, is to categorizing people in senses to relationships. But the most thing, and another thing here to think about is when you have less friends, you're basically, in a way, I want you guys to take a look at this art. This is not an article. This is just a commentary by Drake. This is commentary by Drake, and where he talks about the friendship and how he classifies.
You have to be able to separate your real life and this. I'm very proud of my real life and the character judgment that I've used throughout the years that I've spent on this earth. Nobody really that I've ever considered a true friend has switched up. But these, like, these fly by night people that you just come across. I mean, they're all not to be trusted. They're all, I don't trust none of them. It's like I'm not naive. I'm not out here being like, yo, it's not buddy buddy, man. This is war, man. Just like anything else. It's like sports, just like whatever it is. We're playing for keeps,
and
bro.
he can't have said it any better. Is he couldn't have said it any better? Is this is war, right? And in war, like I don't know if you guys know the scene from 300 Spartans. There was a three scene from 300 Spartans where, let me see, 300 Spartans, and they were betrayed, and they were betrayed, and the guy that betrayed them, I think it's a little bit might be a little graphic, so it might be a little graphic to kind of show the scene of the guy betraying them, but there was a scene from the 300 Spartans where basically there was a I'm not gonna describe what it is, but they met this guy. We'll just say this guy. They met this guy along the road, right? He wanted to join the army as they went to go fight Xerxes, right, which is a Persian king at the time, and he wasn't fit for battle. So Leonidas at the time was like, "No, now I'm not, you're not fit for the battle," and all this stuff kind of made him, go away. But long story short, he felt defeated. He felt betrayed by Leonidas by not allowing him join. That he went and sold them out. Right? He sold out the secrets. He gave them, and that was the reason why the 300 the Spartans at the time, they were pretty much killed, was because they were ambushed, because they were betrayed. You look at it from a perspective of, even if you look at it from in a Christian Bible, if you look at Jesus, for the most part, it was Judas that betrayed him. All right, Judas was the one that pretty much betrayed him. Now most people argue that if Judas hadn't betrayed him, he would have died on the cross, which in a way you're like, okay, makes good sense there. But when you start to understand that the more people you bring in, the more you have the ability of bringing in bad apples. The more you have to bring you, the more you're bringing in people. Not everybody that you're bringing in is going to have your best interest. Not everyone that you're bringing in is going to be in a position in which they're like, yes, I agree with you. Yes, I think we're friends. Yes, I'll do everything for you, or I'll do not even everything, but I'll be there to support you one way or another, right? So it's all about understanding as far as like who your friends are. Understanding is to if people can be trusted, and honestly, it's a struggle sometimes. It is genuinely a struggle. And there's a video here which is by Kobe Bryant. We're gonna go back to the article here, but there's a video by Kobe, and Kobe was asked a question about friendship. And let me see if I can get this video to play.
Do you have friends? Do you have like guys you hang out with?
Do I have friends? No, I have no friends.
Is it true?
Yeah, no, zero. I hate people.
Like, is Michael
So,
Jordan?
so there's a way in which you might think, oh, he's joking, he's just playing around. I mean, yeah, he might be, but then again, you gotta understand this too. Someone that performs to his caliber, for the most part. I mean, may he so rest in peace. Someone that performs to his caliber, for the most part. Not everybody's gonna get you. Not everybody's going to understand your work ethic. People are gonna see your work ethic and think your work ethic is obsessive. They'll be like, why do you work too much? Why don't you take a break? Why don't you relax? It's not all about work. It's not all about work. You should go on a slow lane. You should go ahead and relax. You should go ahead and do this. And like when people give that advice, they think they're helping you for the most part. They think they're like looking out for you by telling you you need to relax. You need to slow down. Life is not all about work. Why are you working so hard? Why are you working so much? Don't you ever take a break? Don't you ever relax? Don't you ever do this? Don't you ever do that? Don't you ever. It's like all this. My whole concept of it is this: is we have too much of a short and finite time on this planet. We have too much of a short and finite time to be wasting it on the slow lane. Okay, because we sleep for one third of our lives. If you're alive for 90 years, 30 of those years is sleeping, right? And you have about what 20 of those years that are really not being productive. 20 of those years in which you're still figuring out what you want to do. So you literally, if you actually average it out, you only get about 35 to 40 useful years out of a 90-year lifespan. So which means only one third of your life, only one third of your life, 30 years, 33, 34, 35 years of your life is actually useful. The rest, it's either being wallowed away and or you're spending it sleeping or restaurant, which is very very fascinating to me here. So and remember we're gonna go back to the article here, guys. But one of the things in which I wanted to talk about was, not, because you're thinking, okay, because a lot of people might think, okay, well, I'm not successful. I'm not that successful, but I don't have any friends, right? I seem to not be able to build, have too many friends, and it's kind of hard for me to build relationships with people. I think what's happening is this: is ever since 2020 happened, it's been very there's been a very much everything has moved towards the internet. So everything's moved towards the internet. So which means if you're looking for friendship, you go to the internet. If you're looking for relationships, you go to the internet. If you look for everything, everything goes to the internet. So which means not a lot of people are actually spending their time on a one-on-one interaction, right? Like you go to a restaurant, you see couples on a table and they're just like this, right? Right? You just see them, right? Couples in a bar, couple in a relationship, they're just going this way, right? And then they're like, okay, I'll have that. And then everyone's living on their phones, relationships on their phones, and sometimes they're actually just texting each other. And like you guys are next to each other, you're like literally right there. Put the phone down, put the phone away, right? So everything's kind of moved up to the end. And so there was this study here where let me find the study here. So there's a study here that basically fewer people are basically having zero friends. So fewer Americans are having zero. What I mean zero. Fewer Americans are having zero steps. Okay. And also kind of covers a few steps there as to, how to get more friendship. So according to an article, let's kind of skip through the ad here. So first we have fewer closer friends. According to the May 2021 American Perspective Survey of over 2,000 adults, so 2,000 adults were surveyed, 12% of Americans report having no friends, up from 3% in 1990. So I'll give you an example. So 3% of people in the 90s said they had no friends. Now it's 12% said they had no friends. Okay. This data is mirrored in the United Kingdom. It's kind of in the same perspective here, where people found that prior to 2013, people spent just under 7 hours per week with friends and around 15 hours when including family, neighbors, and coworkers outside of work. By 2015, people began reporting less social time. And, by the time the pandemic happened, everybody was like kind of like it was just an isolation because now you're pretty much on your own and pretty much doing your own thing, right? So now this is another study here as to now you're looking at it from a perspective of, okay, Manuel, what's your point you're getting at? Right? What's your point getting at? Because if we're looking at it from a perspective of friendship, you're like, I have friends. This doesn't apply to me. I've got high quality friends. I got people who care about me, and I've got friends that I could call for anything, and they'll be here to assist me. Right now, the problem is not if you have a lot of friends. The problem is not if you have friends and you guys are good. You're golfing buddies, you whatever buddies. As long as you keep your friendships and your work life completely separate, it's perfectly fine. But if you start to commingle your success in your work, you're like, hey, I just got a pay raise now to pay me, whatever much per month, right? Hey, I just started this, I'm buying this, and now you're starting to see in envy and jealousy. Because here's another thing to understand this too. So there was another survey in a study, 68% of people reported being betrayed by friends. Okay, so this is the reason why I'm telling you that if you have friendship and you want to keep your friend group, you have to be willing to, if you really care about them, you have to pretty much keep your work and your personal life and your personal achievements separate from them. Now, if they're work friends, I wish you best of luck, right? So let's see if I can find this. Let's see if I can find this here somewhere. Okay, so apparently this they just have a bunch of this is just an article galore. This is just a what do you call it? This is just people basically sharing these stories. So this is a story from someone who says others. So but we don't need tales of murder and mayhem to find value in examining negative friendships and consequences of betrayal. Over the 2 decades I've been researching friendship patterns. I've interviewed people who were betrayed, and when a friend there was a friend to his romantic partner, artists ended up with friendship because of betrayal that at the very last stopped the pivotal work project. And there's so much. So one is a story of one of my best friends. This was a friend saying, one of my best friends romantically pursued every woman in which I expressed interest. This is a 24-year-old single male. So which I would say this, guys, if you have your friends trying to get your girl, that's not a friend. Okay. That's not a friend. That's just, I don't even know what you call that. That's not a friend. That's not that I wouldn't even consider or classify that as a friend. I would probably classify that as and I won't even say the word enemy, but somebody you should not be around with. So one, she told me she was sleeping with. Oh, so this girl was sleeping with her friend's boyfriend and trying to convince me. That's a funny story. My close friend at work went to our mutual boss to describe something we either both working on that I had taken the initiative to set up and talked about how he had handled it. 55-year-old twice. Okay, a close female friend is jealous of me being married. So this is another thing is too, and I've said this is when you are 44-year-old man, when you are in a situation which you have something that most people want, then you start to seek in jealousy and envy. Your best friend I grew up with attacked me physically for no reason. That's a very interesting thing. I mean, we all knew why she did. A casual friend started a rumor about me at work. Sounds pretty much said my maid of honor stole money from me on the night of my bachelor party. So that's a funny one. Okay, so this is just there's just there's so much stories, and I'm pretty sure you guys have experienced it. I mean, you can go online right now, you can even check your personal life and you see that you've lost friends. The friend, because think about it, the friends that you have right now probably not the ones you had a few years back, right? And I'm not saying everybody's bad. I'm not saying that you should take that into account. But what I am saying is the people that you hang around with, especially your close friend group, should be curated. You should curate the people that you have in your close friend group. You should curate you should have standards. Okay. You should have standards for the fact that hey, this is the kind of person I am. So this is the kind of people I want as friends. And if someone does not meet the standards of what I classify or deem as a friend, and this is not somebody that I want around me, which it is pretty much what it is. So if you look at that and you factor that in, we're going to now we're going to dive deeper and we're going to keep this a little shorter. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter day, but we're talking about the 15 signs of a fake friend. Okay, the 15 signs of a fake friend. Okay, so sign one. So they don't support you. Now, this is very interesting because remember I told you guys a story of the guy that was pretending to be supportive, but in genuinely was not really having my best interest. So that's a double-edged sword. So we can say they don't support you, but I wouldn't call that a fake friend. I'll call that something where you got to get more context on it. So number two is this is an article by Choosing Therapy. So number two is they overly competitive with you. Now, in a way, yes and no. I personally would say this is there's a need for healthy competition. If your friends don't push you, then they're not friends. But if they talk down on you, then you kind of, you gotta be, Then there's another one. The third one is they make you feel bad about yourself, right? We're basically now this is a thing where in which what's the context by it? If it's people that's like, oh, you're not gonna amount to anything, or you're not gonna do this, and they keep using demeaning words, then yes, those are people in which you should not be friends with. But if it's a position in which they're like, you know, because I personally believe if it's a position in which they're saying things like, hey, you could do this, you could be better than that, I think you deserve more, you're selling yourself short. Those are kind of things you're like, okay, yeah, you know what? That's where it makes sense. So they turn others against you. This is where, I mean, obviously it's a no. If people are close to you, but then they're trying to incite someone else to, and this could be no number of reasons. It could be envy, it could be the fact that some people generally just enjoy starting conflict. You'd be surprised. People actually enjoy starting conflict. So if they try to turn other people against you, those are people to stay away from. They always need attention. So if someone always needs attention, this has to do. But it's not like they're giving attention, it's just calling and calling and calling and calling you for attention. Then these are people you need to keep away from. They peer pressure you. Narcissistic is very subjective. Okay. In a sense, too, you have to be able to, if they're diagnosed with it, sure. But this narcissism, I believe, is self-obsession, right? So the thing about self-obsession this is also another reason why I believe most successful people don't have so much friends is because to be successful, there's an inner sense of narcissism that has to be developed. There's an inner sense of egotism. There's an inner sense of like, you got to have this ego that I am the one, I am the man, I am the person. And usually when you have that ego of like, I am the person, I am the best, I am the whatever it is, you're going to rub off to other people the wrong way, right? And that's another reason why successful people struggle to make friends is because people see them in a way as like self-obsessed, having inner narcissism or inner just them. It's about them. It's about my business. It's about me. It's about me. It's about that. And when you kind of come up in that perspective, it tends to rub off in the wrong way to other people, and then people don't see you, don't actually want to hang out with you. So sometimes it's not even because of envy, it's just because of, from the majority of the fact is that people just like, yeah, they're just the ego in this person. I'm not a big fan of it, right? And that's something you got to come to terms with, is to, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to develop an ego, and it's going to rub off to people in the wrong way. You have to be understanding of that and understand that you probably are going to piss people off just by you wanting to be successful. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so as we dive deeper here, we're about to wrap up here, guys. The jealous of you, obviously, jealous is a no-no. The emotional dump on you, that's another one. Energy vampires, they try to take your energy, that's another one. And they share their bad moods. They hold grudges. They focus on appearances. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's an element of shallowness to everybody because most people are materialistic. So you got to take that into account. They judge you and they only reach out when they need you. So these are a few signs based on the article from Choosing Therapy. So go ahead and let me know what you guys think. I just want to kind of do this brief because you guys remember, guys, I said I'm going to be dropping content every day. So this is me basically trying to see how much, to help you to be, for the most part, to curate the people you have around you. For me, like I have standards. There's three people I would not hang around with. I would not do business with. I do not keep close. I do not hang around people who have nothing going on for themselves. They suffer from any sort of whatever it is. I just don't, because if they do, then it's just gonna rub off. They're gonna rub it off on me. Two, people who are desperate for money, relationship, whatever it is. I just don't, because desperate people at some point will sell you out. They will. They genuinely will. And then three, I'm very cautious of people who don't um do their own independent research. I personally am a big believer as to, if you tell me 1 + 1 is 2, and I'm like, okay, why are you trying to influence me? So that's like, I like to do my own independent research. I like to understand that, where's the basis of this? You tell me to do this. Okay. Like, for instance, in the insurance industry, someone's like, okay, this is the benefit of this and this policy. I'm like, okay, and someone tells you that, you're like, okay, let me go look it up and see, is this actually something that's like generally, true? And what it is. Do your own independent research. I like people to, do their own independent research. And if it comes to give criticism, right? Give criticism. Like, hey, I don't think you should be doing this. I'm not a big fan of like too much agreeable people who are like super agreeable. And like, if you say anything, you said like, yeah, I think you should do it. Yeah, I'm like, think for yourself. Come on. We got to be in a position of frame of mind where we can actually have a dialogue. We got to be in a position where you can, if I say we should do this, and you're like, actually, I don't see that way. Someone, if you don't have friends to challenge you, you can't really grow. Right? You got to have people to challenge you. So those are kind of a few things, guys. Drop in the comments. Let me know what you think. And obviously, guys, this is going to be where we're going to be wrapping up today. So everyone, thanks again for joining me, and